All right, AJ, thank you so much for doing this podcast. Appreciate you for your time. Can you let the listeners know a little bit about yourself, maybe your background and kind of how you got where you are?
Sure, sure. So maybe I'll do a little bit of a quicker intro, and then we can dive deeper if you have questions. But I am originally from Philadelphia, or outside of Philadelphia in South Jersey. Went to the Naval Academy in Annapolis for undergrad. Was an engineering major. Was a nuclear engineer in the Navy for 5 years. Decided that I wanted to learn about business, and so decided to go to business school. I attended Wharton, and then in 2008 graduated right in time for the financial crisis. Worked on Wall Street for 12 years, and recently left about a year ago to start more entrepreneurial ventures. And so that's that's sort of the quick and skinny. Happy to go any deeper in any of that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for that overview. What type of kid were you? What were you into kind of growing up? Were you
Yeah,
in finance or like
I was always a worker. So interestingly, I started working when I was 7 years old. My mom, so I grew up a single mother household. My mom was by day, worked in the accounting department for a glass manufacturer, a job that she had for 40 years. And she decided at some point that she wanted to start a janitorial service, and that her first client would be actually the glass company that she worked for. And so because she worked in accounts receivable, she saw how much they were paying this janitorial service and heard through the office that people weren't happy with the service. And so when they were looking for a new party to come in and clean the offices, she had sort of the insider information on what the pricing was and put an appropriate bid in and got it with no experience cleaning anything professionally. And so she won, and I was her first employee at the age of 7. That was me. I was always very, very focused on making money because I think my mom was also made me very aware that I would only be able to afford the things I wanted if I paid for them myself. And so I remember she gave me, the day she hired me, she gave me a little ledger book and allowed me to sort of write down the accounts I was helping her with. So, $7 for the doctor's office, $5 for the bank, $13 for the convenience store, and every 2 weeks she would pay me. And so that was my first entree into anything related to finance and money management. But that was pivotal to me because it really got me focused about earning at an early age, and focused on sort of what I could do to be entrepreneurial. Outside of work, I was really into sports. I grew up in the country in a little farm town called Woodstown, New Jersey. So population 5,000 people, and the reality was there wasn't much to do outside of sports, and so I was always outside playing soccer, basketball, baseball, skateboarding. I was pretty active, and I was a kid who got bored easily, and so I tended to be outside, quite a bit, playing with my friends and just doing normal kid stuff.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so what type of like when you're getting into high school, where's your mindset at? Like
Yeah.
thinking about military? Are you thinking about like
No.
Wall Street? Like what is AJ have to
Yeah.
do in high
It's
school?
so the military really came to me. Again, like my mom, she didn't have any military background, and no one in my family. She's one of 5 children. None of my uncles or aunts were in the military. There's no real history there. I learned about the military really and the Naval Academy because my town, for whatever reason, always, although it was small, always sent the top graduate to West Point. And so that was just a tradition in my town. If you were the top athlete, top student, you didn't apply to Harvard or Princeton or anywhere else, you went to West Point. And so that was always, kind of in the back of my mind. When I was in the 6th grade, my sixth grade teacher, his son was a West Point grad, and this was during the first Persian Gulf War. And we, as a class, would write his son Brett a letter every couple of weeks, and he would write back while he was on deployment as a helicopter pilot in the Persian Gulf. And when he came back from deployment, he came into class and presented to us. And, we were all blown away. We thought he looked like a real life G.I. Joe, right?
Sure.
And so, immediately me and all of my buddies said, we're going to West Point. We want to be just like him. And that was really the inception of the idea in my mind. And, I was the only person to kind of keep that going all the way through high school. What I realized, I think at some point in high school, and I was a good student, not early on, but over time I realized, look, and it was somewhat related to me, being interested in making money. I said, realize that I had to do well in school in order to, go to the right college, in order to get the right job. And I put that logic together pretty early on, probably in the third or fourth grade. And then, by the time I got to high school, I was a good student. But my mom and my family wouldn't have been able to afford, without a lot of financial aid, a very good education. And so for me, West Point all of a sudden turned into an opportunity to go to an amazing school and get a, exceptional education, and also do it for free. Right. So, and so the value for me was pretty unprecedented. There weren't really many other options that allowed me to do that. At some point, it was in my junior year in high school, I found out about the Naval Academy. I didn't even know the Naval Academy existed before then, and happened to go to a presentation. There was a blue and gold officer who's a recruiter sort of for the Naval Academy, who came in and presented to our high school physics class. And I, went to the presentation and then applied for a summer camp essentially at the Naval Academy. Went down there and loved it. It was in the summer, and, I don't know if you've been to Annapolis, but it's a beautiful little town. It's, the campus is really beautiful. It's an old historic national sort of treasure. It's right on the Severn River. In the summer there's boats and sailing, and it looks, like nothing I'd ever seen before. And I'd been up to West Point to see that as well. And West Point, when I was there, it was in the winter, and the skies were gray, and the buildings were gray, and all the uniforms are gray. And it didn't take long for me to say, maybe this other place might be a better option. And so, I decided to I got into West Point, got into the Naval Academy, and I had applied to UVA actually through ROTC and got a full ROTC scholarship. But decided to go to Annapolis in the end. It's where I felt the best fit.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And so by high school, you were achieving, and you were really kind of it sounds like you were a performer, you were a good student.
Right.
What type of prep work were you doing in high school? I know we have somewhat younger listeners starting to listen,
Sure.
but what type of things were you doing in high school? Were you taking classes to get prepared? Were you, you said you were you had folks coming in and speaking to your class and that kind of thing. How'd you get good at it?
Yeah. So, early on, my mom got me a computer. And this was when I was probably 5, 6 years old. And the first games that I remember playing were math games. And I would just play those games, nonstop. And so I was always, I felt like that was good practice for me when I was, in the earlier years. In my first 3 years of school, though, I was horrible. I didn't, I got F's on my report card. I was, almost got left back in maybe the first or second grade. And at some point, I remember this, pretty distinctly. I thought, all right, well, this time, let me just see if I can do this. And I decided that I was just going to just do all my homework. So that semester, did all my homework, made sure it was turned in on time, and got A's and B's. And then the next semester did the same thing, or next marking period did the same thing, and got, all A's and 1 B. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed, and I just turned into a straight A student. Really, for no other reason than I just said, let me just try to do it. And, and so that, that was kind of fourth and fifth grade. And, at that time, my family moved from one town to our neighboring town. And, I'll tell you, like for me, it was really the biggest influence on me was probably my friends. Because when I moved, all of a sudden my friends were talking to me about college in the fifth grade. And they said, I want to go to Georgetown. I want to go to UCLA. I want to go to Michigan. And I hadn't ever even considered, I didn't know what any of that was because no one in my family had ever gone to college.
Hmm.
So now I'm hearing about, these kind of hopes and dreams of my friends, and essentially just co-opted them for myself and said, all right, like, this is what's cool here. So let me see what, Georgetown's all about, and let me learn about UCLA and Michigan. And came to realize what they were and what they represented and the opportunity that they would, kind of present to me. And so that is really sort of how I got kind of focused on doing well in school, because I knew you had to do a certain, achieve a certain level of success in middle school and high school in order to get into a college like that. And so I was, I was pretty focused on it.
And by the time you got to the Naval Academy, what were like some of your takeaways, I guess, in like discipline and kind of just like getting ready to think about, your job after that? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
summarize it,
yeah.
if you will.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, for the Naval Academy, it's interesting because when I went there, I was fully expecting not to do well. I thought I'm from the small town, small high school, small league. Now I'm going to the big leagues, and you know, my A's and B's and honor roll is not gonna happen here anymore. And I had taken, I'd taken the hardest classes I could take in high school. So I was taking AP classes in high school, which are, college level classes. And so I get to college, and my first semester, I realized that all those hard classes I was taking in high school did exactly what they're supposed to do and prepared me for college. And so after the first semester at the Naval Academy, when I was fully expecting to have, sort of C's, I got straight A's. I had one B, so I had a 3.88 after my first semester. And after I achieved that, I realized that I couldn't just, let myself off the hook, so to speak. And so I just, kept it going. But the Naval Academy, also presented some other challenges, because it's a military school. It's a completely different environment than, a regular civilian university. It's super challenging, which is, one of the main reasons I wanted to go there, was just to see if I could do it, to be honest. Again, I didn't have someone, telling me, glory stories from their time in the military growing up. And so the military for me was just like a side effect of being able to get this great education, and going through this hard challenge. And that's exactly what it was. And so, the Naval Academy not only prepared me for my job in the Navy, and then my career after that, but also just, it taught me that I could do hard things, and that hard things are important, right? Like, challenge is important. I decided to, as if the Naval Academy wasn't hard enough, I decided to box at Navy. I'd never boxed before. Everyone has to play a sport, or do some sort of activity. And my friends were boxing. And so I said, okay, let me try it out. Got in the ring, the first day, just didn't know what I was doing. And realized that, oh, I mean, this is something different. And like my athletic prowess in hoops and in soccer may not translate here, but I kept with it. And over time, what I realized was that, I started to get really good. And the reason I got really good was because I would always fight better boxers, to the point where at one point our coach, who was a crazy, funny guy from Philadelphia, Irish guy, decided to take us up to a prison to box the inmates, right? And so, I'm 19, going to this maximum security prison in Pennsylvania where they administer capital punishment and fighting an inmate. I'll tell you, man, I've never been more scared in my life. I've never been more intimidated in my life, but I survived, and I got my butt kicked. But after that, I was All-American boxer 3 years in a row. I was never intimidated by another collegiate boxer because I always had, that experience in the back of my head, like no matter what, this, whoever I'm facing in the ring isn't as tough as that guy. And that's sort of, one of the foundational moments in my life that I've always sort of tapped into whenever I have to make a decision about, easy versus hard.
Mm-hmm.
I always go the hard way. And that's really the, if I could sum up any, my entire career trajectory, that's it.
No, it's fantastic. Lots of gems there. What about your career after? I mean, when
Yeah.
did you start to think about like, okay, you've already had this thought about money like early on, and you know you can achieve things that you put your mind to, but like,
Right.
how did you start to transition and think about, okay, I'm gonna work in the finance industry?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was always interested in how to make, a dollar into $2. I mean, that was really the genesis of it, and had just done a lot of reading on my own about how the stock market works, how to invest. Anything I could get my hands on if I had time, I would just try to read and just be up to speed on how to navigate that world, because I knew it was treacherous. I knew you could potentially lose a lot of money um, if you didn't know what you're doing. So I just wanted to be prepared. And this was when I was in college. And so, between college and Wharton, I had a 5-year, stint in the Navy that I had to complete. But I always knew that I wanted to go back to business school. I always knew that that was sort of the transition for me from kind of one world to another. And I'll say, like, for me, that was one of the most um, instrumental decisions of my life, was to go to business school, especially out of the military. And I think, education is just, generally speaking, is a great way to transition from one career to another, whether you go to medical school, law school, business school, or you get a graduate degree in something else. It's just a very good time to get out of the work, environment, take some time to kind of think and plan. Wharton especially, or, it's really any top 5 business school, is geared towards allowing you to network and meet a whole new group of professionals that, what I've now realized, have become very close friends and partners and, family almost to me throughout my career, who are all doing amazing things on our own. But business school specifically for me allowed me, the time to really think about what's next, and then really learn about finance in a very material way. So I had kind of done some self-study, but nothing, got me smart like being in a classroom and learning it in the fundamentals of that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So what was like your first job? How'd you get into it? What was that
Yeah,
process
yeah,
like?
sure. So at business school, what they do is you come in, you know, you come in day one and they say, all right, in 30 days, you need to figure out what you want to do. Pretty much, not, not literally, but that's the sense. I thought I would have 2 years to sort of try a lot of different things and, explore. But the reality is there's too many options for you to explore everything. And so you have to get fairly focused early on. So I knew finance was a thing. I didn't really know how broad finance was. I reached out to a military veteran who happened to work in Philadelphia at the time for Goldman Sachs, and said something like, hey, I'm new to Philly, a first year at Wharton, love to come and pick your brain on how I should think about navigating in order to make a right decision. And so he was gracious enough to invite me into Goldman Sachs offices in Philly and sit me down and say, all right, this is what finance is. And it's very broad. You need to pick like one specific area. Is it investment management? Is it sales and trading? Is it banking? Do you want to be in private equity? These, with your background, these are the places that you sort of you may want to focus on. And so that was really helpful. Just getting someone who'd sort of been there and done it to give me advice on how to make the right decisions at business school. And then it was, it was just listening to talking to a bunch of my classmates that had come from, finance and Wall Street about their experiences. And then listening to, so companies come and present on campus. And so one of the first companies that I saw present was this firm called PIMCO, Pacific Investment Management Company, which at the time I knew nothing about. I knew they were popular because everyone was in this room was filled. Other than that, I didn't know anything about them. But after that, I left that presentation, I said, I want to work for these guys. You know, it just seemed like they were very credible. They knew what they were talking about. They just present themselves in such a way that it, again, like it seemed hard, and I knew they didn't cater towards military background, so it made me want it more, right? And the problem was, though, I didn't know the first thing about a bond, or I didn't know the first thing about fixed income.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn it. And again, like I didn't, it's another hustle. Like I didn't know, you know, the first thing about derivatives or anything like that. And I knew that this firm was very technical on the interview. And I wouldn't be prepared if I had just sort of studied the things I was learning in the core curriculum at Wharton. And so what I did was I found every second year student at Wharton who had interned with PIMCO or who had interviewed with PIMCO, and took them all to lunch and said, what do I need to know for the interview, right? And we're just taking notes, just listening, taking notes. I did that for, you know, maybe a month, and just, you know, first month of Wharton, and created like a pretty long file of things that I needed to figure out and I needed to be able to answer. And so I went to Wikipedia, I went to Investopedia, I went to Google. I just did, you know, anything I could do to learn how to answer these questions, because I knew that if I didn't get up to speed quickly, like I had no shot at getting an interview with PIMCO, let alone getting a summer internship. Because again, I was competing with people who came from finance and came from the background that I was trying to go into. And so I needed to figure out how to compete. And so that's what I did. I got the interview with PIMCO, and then did well in the interview and got the summer internship, and then wound up getting a full-time offer from the summer internship. And that's where I started my career on Wall Street.
Oh, interesting. So you started there, and
Yeah.
you were working on bonds because that's what they do, is they're
Yeah.
on
The big bond shop.
focus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, so I was helping them raise money from large institutional investors. So I joined you know, if you think about an investment management platform, there's a investing component. So the folks that are actually investing the money, you know, the people that are raising the money for the investors to invest. So I was on the capital raising team, and I was raising money from, you know, corporate pension plans, foundations, endowments. Started really focusing on insurance companies at the end, and healthcare, provides healthcare pension plans, and did that for 4.5 years, and learned a ton. You know, again, I was coming in with not a lot of experience in the space, and so I was just very, very focused on asking as many questions as possible, as early as possible, in order to get the learning curve as quickly as possible, and that, you know, that worked out for me well.
What was like the pitching process like in that case when you're doing the capital raise and you're kind of traveling around and
Right.
you're selling it, you know, you're selling this idea of like, give us the funds, we'll
Right.
provide you with steady returns, or we'll provide you with
Yep.
security. Like, what type of kind of takeaway do you like remember from that time that maybe you can apply to you know, your life today?
Yeah. And that's a great question. And I think there's one thing that I learned early on at PIMCO that I still practice today on a daily basis. And it's really that in marketing, period, whether you're marketing a financial product, an app, a tech, you know, instrument, a service, it's not about, you know, your product. It's about what you're doing for the other person. It's about, you know, the user's goals and objectives and how you can help them get to where they want to be. And so at PIMCO, you know, one of the things that our team always preached was you want to be a trusted advisor to your clients, right? It's not about coming in and pitching PIMCO product as much as coming in and understanding the problems that your client is facing or prospect is facing, and how you can potentially be of service to them and helping them overcome that issue. And if it's, you know, sometimes it's a product that we have that can be helpful, and sometimes it's just something else that we don't offer, but because you know the market, you know where to send, you know, your client in order to find a solution they're looking for. And it's something that I've always done in my career. It's something I still do today. And I think it's even pertinent today than ever before, because in any industry, when you're trying to market, there are a lot of other people trying to do the same thing you're doing. And the way you really, to me, the way you rise above the noise is by being helpful and being solutions oriented for your client. It's not about me trying to jam, my solution into your problem. It's really me understanding your problem and applying a solution that I think could be helpful and being a guide for you and helping you get to where you want to get.
No, that's perfect. And so you left PIMCO and you worked at another firm after that, or?
I did, yeah. So I worked at PIMCO for 5 years. Decided that I wasn't learning as much as I was initially, and I wanted to be learning about alternatives. And so this is around the time where you start to see a lot more hedge funds and private equity and illiquid credit products being launched by different alternative investment platforms. I was really interested in doing that. And so I left PIMCO in early 2013 and joined a firm called Providence Equity Partners in New York. And that was, Providence has a platform that is broad, has a traditional private equity side of the business, and they had just acquired a large credit platform that they were building out. And so it gave me a chance to learn a different part of the credit markets that I didn't know before, and private equity, which is an asset class I hadn't been familiar with intimately and from a working perspective before. And so the buyers of those type of investments are different than the buyers of the type of investments I was selling at PIMCO. And so it gave me a whole new marketplace to map out. I did that for 2 years, then decided that I would move to DC to take a job with EIG Partners, which is an energy and infrastructure investment platform. So private equity, but just for energy. So again, now I'm talking, instead of about telecom and media and education investments that were more tech focused at Providence, now I got the chance to learn about large infrastructure, power, energy, oil and gas pipeline, more mature type investments with a different investment profile. And again, whole new set of investors, whole new set of relationships to build, and a whole new category to sort of map out.
And was your work at the last shop that you were at, was that more focusing on kind of buying and selling whole companies, or how was that like different?
It was still, yeah. So it's still on the capital raising side, business development side. Yeah, exactly. So
you have
again,
a fund, and then that fund will go out and do the
right. Exactly. So the last thing I did at EIG Partners was help them raise a $6 billion fund that then they would go and deploy over the next 5 years before they came back to market for the next series.
Makes sense. And so you left that and you decided you were going to strike out on your own.
Right.
Walk through that process. How did you've been in corporate world for a long time.
Yeah.
How do you make a decision and say, I'm going to leave and I'm going to, go in this other path of this other challenge?
Yeah. So a couple things happened. So I got married in late 2018, and thank you. And my wife and I said, we would really like to take some time to travel and take some time off of work, just because one, we wanted to be able to see what we could see before we started to try to have a family, which was a big reason, but also because I think we were both at a point in our careers where we weren't learning. Again, we weren't really learning as much as we were initially, and we wanted to sort of really think about how we wanted to be spending the rest of our professional lives and what we wanted to be working on. And that was a big part of it as well. So, yeah, so we took off from DC in March of 2019 with the goal of traveling for 12 months, mostly internationally. And so we left DC and sort of on this world tour to, again, just kind of experience new things and get a new perspective and learn, and also to think about how we wanted to be working going forward. And I think, early on in that process, we realized that we wanted to be helping people, and we wanted to be starting businesses that were primarily focused there. And so, that's what, that was the conclusion. That's what we're doing now.
What was something that was like just either surprising or like just interesting from the travel?
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot. I mean, we were coming up against problems all the time. Yeah. I mean, we went to Zimbabwe, where, we weren't really prepared for sort of the level of dysfunction that we saw. There's no, I don't know if you're aware, but there's no money in circulation in Zimbabwe, no hard currency.
Hmm.
And so we had just come from South Africa and landed in Zimbabwe and said, okay, like we have in every other place, we'll just, go to an ATM, get some money, and then be able to pay for stuff. There's no ATMs. And, worse than that, when we landed, we noticed that everyone in front of us was buying a visa to get into the country and paying with American dollars. So we had $3, like I had 3 singles in my wallet that had been like maybe buried in the bottom of my backpack somewhere. And so we get to the front of the line, and eventually we talk our way in. But it was, it was a week that was very eye-opening in terms of just a different way of life than, what we experience on a day-to-day basis. This is a country that has really no middle class, as far as I could tell. There's a large portion of the population has very little, and a small percentage of the population has something. But there aren't any bar areas. There aren't any sort of like, what am I trying to say? There aren't any sort of places of leisure. It's, people are either working or not working. And that's really it. So, it was, experiences like that really made us, one, appreciate sort of what we have here, and come back with a different perspective than we left with. And I think we grew from a lot of these experiences. Just, obviously traveling with your wife, no matter anyone, but 24/7, 365 is tough. And I think, we expedited our marriage a lot. And we like to joke that, we've in dog years probably been married for 10 years.
Yep.
Because we've been around each other for so long. But you really learn about yourself, and you really learn about, the other person when you do something like that. So for us, it was, super rewarding and valuable.
And I know it sounds like you've been in the corporate game longer than the entrepreneurial game, but
Right.
what are your impressions, I guess, thus far on the decision that you all have made, and just kind of the work that you're working today?
Yeah. No, I think we both feel very engaged, and we both feel very excited, sort of on a day-to-day basis. I think, I love the work that I was doing before. I think the difference is now, we have to learn how to time manage, right? We have to learn how to, where to focus our energy. We have to really manage ourselves in terms of staying focused and not getting distracted. And so these are things that we practice on a daily basis, just how to, how not to drop the ball on anything. I think the nice thing about what we're doing now, and really over the last year and a half, has been the reality that, we can learn whatever we want to learn. And so, all I do is read books. I'm just really, using this time and I've used this time to re-educate myself on a lot of different things. But I've read books on philosophy, books on technology, books on innovation, books on like fictional books, science fiction books, and just storytelling. I've, taken a creative writing class. I've, gotten really into technology and blockchain and done a lot of work there. Marketing has always been, obviously an interest of mine. So I've gotten up to speed on like what the latest trends in marketing are, just a lot of things that I always had an interest in that I didn't have the time to sort of pursue when I was working full time. Now as an entrepreneur, that's really the name of the game, is like, picking what you want to learn, researching that, relaying that information back to the market, either through product or through content, or, ideally both, right? And so in order to stay ahead of, not only the competition, but just to continue to progress, stay ahead of yourself, and the people that you're kind of selling and marketing to, it's important to kind of stay on a forward learning path. And I think that's what, we're both on right now. And it feels really good because, we make progress every day on that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Do you want to like plug your work that you're doing now and kind of, paint a picture, I guess, for,
Sure.
the stuff that you're working on day in, day out?
Yeah, sure. So, we've been very focused on building community, and specifically building communities, engaged communities around for-purpose brands and creative brands. So we have a view that, young creatives and young artists need infrastructure beneath them in order to just survive in the world. Whether you're a recording artist or a young startup, we have business expertise that we can apply and allow young artists the space to continue to create. And so we've done a lot of work around creating infrastructure beneath, those type of entities that allow it to happen. Blockchain is a technology that's, foreign to many people. It was foreign to me up until about a year ago. I knew about blockchain because I had heard about Bitcoin. I'd heard about cryptocurrency and all the volatility that was associated with those instruments. But beyond that, I hadn't really looked too closely at it. But, as I've looked closer, what we've realized is that, blockchain holds a lot of potential, for society at large. And it takes us away from, has the potential to take us away from this sort of monopolistic business environment that we've sort of grown accustomed to one that's decentralized and owned by all. So for an example, there's a way through blockchain to, for the user to own the platform, right? And so imagine a Facebook where, all the users get compensated for their activity, for sharing, for liking, for posting, for creating content, right? Which should be the case. It should be the case that as a user, your attention shouldn't be harvested to make money for a corporate entity. Your attention and your focus and your contribution should go back into your own pocket, and through blockchain, that's possible. And so as it relates to our work, with AP Chemistry is our company, we are using that same technology to help propel these emerging artists and emerging creative brands, hired, and raising awareness around them using this ownership structure. And it's a pretty powerful thing. So we launched a for-purpose brand ourselves called Friend that is helping raise money for equal justice in the U.S. As in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. We are starting actually on Thursday, October 1st. The second iteration of that is a Friend challenge that we are launching to help us all become better friends and put positive energy into the world. And we want these movements that we're creating to do just that, like put positive energy into the world, so that we can say we made a contribution.
That's awesome. Well, this has been great, AJ. I appreciate you for carving out the time. Where can listeners kind of follow you and connect with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Twitter at Team Float. I'm on Instagram at Alton Junior. That's ALTONJUNIOR. You can follow us there. We have an Instagram site for AP Chemistry as well, which is APCHMSTRY. So any one of those three places.
Awesome. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, no, thank you.